So there are 6 dimensions to it, and the first one is strategy and vision.
So one needs to look at data itself in a strategic way and see what is my data strategy across the origin of my data. Hi Shiva, how are you?
Hey Jaydeep, I'm good.
Welcome to AI Connect's current episode.
Thank you.
As you know that we are actually trying out a new format, and hopefully this is something that will make the conversation more engaging, as we are sitting in person today.
Correct.
And going forward, we'll try and maintain a similar format whenever possible. But coming back to today's episode, today it's a special episode where we are going to focus on the organizational AI readiness and its importance for their success in the AI realm. Now, I want to start by asking you, there are so much of buzz about AI in the market, in social media, and even when we speak to our customers, and we have been constantly hearing feedback, opinions, point of views, and insights about AI and its various dimensions.
Correct.
One of the challenges that we often hear is, and which is true, is that different companies are at a different point of their AI journey.
Correct.
And I thought we'll take this opportunity to introduce a new asset that Prescience has recently developed, and I will let you introduce that. But giving a little bit of context in terms of why this is important today. And I wanted to start off asking you that why organizations still seem to be a little undecided, and in many cases are not sure where they are with respect to their AI journey, and how do they scale it from where they are? How do they embrace it organization-wide, their AI initiatives, and get the maximum value from their AI investments and efforts?
So if you look at it, the technology or the algorithms behind some of the AI breakthroughs that we are seeing right now are not really new. A lot of it has been in the works, and what really bubbled this hub from a business value point of view was really a combination of factors. For example, the cloud infrastructure, the focus on data, big data, streaming data, all of that, right? So as with any new technology adoption, at least in our experience, what we have seen with working with enterprise clients is a lot of things need to come together. It is not just that you put in a new algorithm and then you will start seeing business value. So what we thought was we need to have a really structured framework wherein we can assess, or at least really look at dimensions of the organizations where they need to focus on before really starting on the AI journey in a big way. So that's the reason we came up with this assessment. Of course, some of the assessment that we are publishing is a shortened form of what we do in some of our consulting engagements with clients. But then we thought it can be a ready reckoner for any organization to start looking at this point in time.
So why should companies consider prioritizing this irrespective to wherever they are in their AI initiative? Particularly for those who are still standing in the sideline maybe, or have just started, but they want to do it in the right fashion.
Correct. So there are 2-3 reasons that are very imperative, right? First of all, why do you want to adopt a new technology? The answer for any enterprise is, answer that any enterprise would be looking for is, how can I grow my business, or how can I support my customers better, improve my quality? So essentially driving business value. Right. So if various aspects of the organizations are not aligned, then you'll not be able to drive business value. For example, if AI or analytics is a function that is run by the IT team or the chief data officer organization alone, then where is the business benefit? And the businesses are not bought into those things. So essentially, that's the reason that we need to look at things a bit more holistically across the organization.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, because AI, as we know, probably would, if not immediately, but will cut through across functions.
Exactly.
And that's when the businesses will truly start realizing the value. Now, going back to this particular assessment that Prescience has launched, which is organizational AI readiness assessment. I understand there are multiple dimensions
Correct.
that you just mentioned. Anyone who's looking into AI, embracing AI, or adopting AI in a meaningful way and scale it would require them to have a certain level of readiness across these dimensions. Can I ask you talk about a little bit about some of these dimensions which are part of and baked into this assessment?
Of course. So there are 6 dimensions to it. And the first one is strategy and vision. So it really deals with how are you looking at it from a strategy point of view? Are you allocating budget? Are you allocating the right set of resources to some of the AI initiatives? And organizations can be at various levels of maturity. And typically, our recommendations for organizations vary based on the level of maturity. You can still start even if you are at a lower level of maturity, but then you probably need to do a lot of POCs while you build up scale, right?
Sure.
So strategy and vision is one. The second one is data. Are you able to integrate data across multiple functions? Because the true value of AI will come only when data from multiple functions like sales, finance, marketing are talking to each other and not really in silos. And then what is the quality of data? And are you bringing in external data sources, data from external sources to validate? And also, especially that becomes very important when you're actually looking at driving growth or driving some innovation in the marketplace.
Yes. So sorry to interrupt, but I guess data in itself is a very important pillar.
Correct.
And I guess what you were saying based on that, so one needs to look at data itself in a strategic way and see what is my data strategy across
Correct.
the origin of my data,
Right.
all the way how do I archive or maybe even sort of dismantle or discard my data, right?
Correct.
So the entire life cycle per se.
Correct.
And have a strategy which is baked into the overall strategy and vision.
Correct. Correct.
Sure.
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah. And the third thing is the technology or the IT infrastructure, which needs to support AI as well as data. For example, adoption of cloud. We have seen that organizations which have adopted cloud in a large way have benefited from AI because there is really to do with how the infrastructure works together, right? So that's one another key area. And then people. Do you have the right set of people? Do you have? If not, are you geared up to take the external help through consultants? Are you able to govern them properly? So people is the fourth dimension. And then the business use cases. How effectively are you thinking about integrating your business use cases into this overall AI strategy? How much the business teams are integrated into the developing use cases along with the AI experts and the technology teams, etc. So that's again a very important aspect of the overall AI readiness strategy that we evaluate. And then the last one, but not the least, is the governance. How exactly are you geared up to govern your AI initiatives? For example, we saw some cases where an airlines had a major lawsuit to settle because the AI bot that they were using was giving customers false information about their policies, right? Are you having overall governance around this?
I think so. The overall assessment has these 6 dimensions, right?
Exactly.
Can you give a little bit of high overview in terms of how the assessment is structured from a flow perspective? Anyone who is interested to take that survey or taking the survey has a very good understanding of what they are going to go through, and also help us understand what can they expect after they complete the assessment. Okay. So let's start maybe with the beginning of the assessment. What do they need to do and what it entails in terms of maybe number of questions? I guess there are 6 dimensions that you mentioned. Each dimension has a certain set of questions. How long it may take to complete that survey?
Correct. Yeah. So what we have done is we have really published a very shortened version of the assessment that we typically do in a consulting assignment. So each assessment, each dimension has 3 questions. These are all multiple choice questions that can be answered and basis. So you will have about 18 questions to answer, and so it should take about 10 to 12 minutes.
3 questions in each dimension.
Three questions in each dimensions. We have culled out the most important questions that we would want a new organization to at least tell us. And it typically should be done by someone who has an overall view of the organization. either a CX or a VP who is interested in driving some of these initiatives, or a business VP who's looking at outcomes from AI, someone who is been thinking about some of these things. Yes, it probably will require about 10 to 12 minutes. And what we typically do is we will give out an initial report based on the answers, responses to those questions, and which will be very specific for each dimension on how they can start, right? And then also basis how each question within that dimension is answered, we will come up with a very specific recommendation for that particular sub dimension, I would say.
So basically, someone who, so first of all, let's go back to the questions part. So it's going to take roughly about 10 to 12 minutes.
Right.
And then once you finish those 18 questions, one important key, I think, consideration here is ideally it should be taken by someone who has a broader view of things and also
Correct.
is responsible for driving the overall AI strategy, hopefully. And let's say if someone in their org wants to do the same exercise, ideally he or she should sit with that stakeholder,
Right.
and probably complete the assessment.
Correct.
That may be one way to do. The other way to do is just simply forward that to someone whom you think is the right individual to, or have the right line of sight
Correct.
for them to be able to complete the assessment.
Correct.
So
Correct.
that is one important consideration, I think. The second thing is, once completed, so they're going to get an overall AI assessment score.
Correct.
And not just that, they're also going to get a score for each dimension,
Correct.
which will tell them that their current in the journey of where they are, and also give them a bit of overview in terms of how they can take the next step.
Correct. Correct.
But I guess since this is done also with the constraint of limited information,
Correct.
it also means that there is, if someone is looking to know a little bit more about that, what is the right way to unpack this and go more deeper?
Yeah.
So
So
you suggest what should be the steps?
yeah, so I think that will require a sort of a deeper level engagement. Once we have the report, then we will have some, at least an idea of the enterprise's AI readiness, and then we could get onto a conversation. We could do a workshop. Typically, we also, as I said, I mean, this is a subset of an overall questions that we typically take to enterprises. We do about 2 weeks an assessment exercise, at the end of which we'll give a detailed report. But then we could also do a shorter exercise basis that some of these questions have been answered already.
Makes sense. So you get a sort of baseline, and based on the baseline, you are in a position to decide that how you want to take this forward as a stakeholder.
Exactly.
But from Prescience' point of view, like you mentioned, that you can also help walk through that entire 6 dimensions and elaborate that more. Maybe begin with kind of a conversation or telephonic conversation, if the organization is not based out of locally, for them to then even further decide to deep dive. I think that will be a right sort of approach.
Correct.
Now, other important question in this that I thought I will check is, what are the different support materials someone can probably refer to before taking this assessment, just for their own understanding of the context and the background a little bit better, so that enables them to attempt this in more meaningful way and get the best value of their time.
Sure. So we have a series of podcasts on AI that you and I have been doing.
Yeah.
They can refer to that. And then we have blogs on our website. We have case studies on our website. And we also have a sample report that is published along with the assessment tool that somebody who is taking the assessment can look at and see if that kind of a report is valuable to them to get, right, basis their scores and the responses that they've given. So those are some of the materials that we already have. And what I also wanted to say was this is really built out of our experience. in working with multiple clients.
Right.
And this is going to be very practical that way. For example, we were working with a retailer who wanted to obviously go to the next level of digital transformation with having apps, selling through omni-channel network, etc. How we started with them was really looking at the data foundation first. Are they on the latest technologies, or at least the technologies that will help them move to AI faster? Then is the data in one place? So data foundation is the first thing that we looked at, and then working with their business teams to define KPIs and metrics for various business functions, and then bringing them up through the data that we have built already, then building governance around that in terms of who has access to what kind of data, right? And bringing in, for example, customer PII information. If it is there, then it should be masked, those kind of strategies. And then going on to building the AI layer and the systemic intelligence layer for their omni-channel network. These are very practical sort of scenarios that we have dealt with, and that has essentially gone into this readiness survey.
Awesome. So this is not just a piece of theory. This is built on actual experience of interacting with different customer in their journey of digital transformation and scaling up from strategy to execution to scale up the entire journey in last maybe 3+ odd years of working through so many different kind of similar group of projects across different verticals and industries.
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
So I think this is very key for anyone who is looking to take this survey, is that I've come across many surveys which predominantly are based out of mainly theories, but I think the Prescience AI readiness assessment is based on actual customer experience and interactions and feedback from what we are hearing and questions from what we are getting from the customer, premised on that.
Right.
So I think anyone again who is looking to take this survey, just to summarize, we have blogs. In fact, we have a specific blog, and we'll put that link in our description of the video, where one can go through in detail those all 6 dimensions and understand the context behind this assessment and the work that is gone into building this survey. Then there are other AI videos which you can go and look at in our AI Connect podcast series. It also actually takes into consideration both predictive and generative. That's also very important. So
Correct.
Overall AI,
Right.
Many times organizations start thinking generative AI first, but I think we have seen through our own experience and conversations that it is important to have the broader strategy and then
Correct.
figure out where generative and where predictive, obviously based on your own industry use cases, your workflow and so on.
Correct.
Right? A lot of material for you to go through, anyone who's taking this survey. And in case if you still need any other information or resources, I think one can always comment on our YouTube video where we're going to post this. And also on LinkedIn, you can reach out to us, any one of us, and we will help you with that. It is important that you are someone who has the line of sight, as we mentioned, across all dimensions, for you to get the best value of and for your effort and time through this survey.
Correct.
Any last word, Shiva, on the readiness assessment?
Basically, this is going to be a sort of a precursor to a journey that you will undertake, and it's a lot more complex than what is coming out in the survey as such, but then this will give you a perspective of what all areas you need to be ready with, what all perspective then you need to think about before embarking on the AI journey. And then one thing to remember is you can always start small. Even if you are not ready on all the dimensions, there are recommendations which are tailored towards very specific areas based on the maturity, and you can definitely start there, right? And then start looking at moving up the maturity level. The important thing is not to lose sight of all of those dimensions, because that is very important, and that's the way, that way it provides you a structure to start with.
Absolutely. This was very valuable conversation, Shiva, and I hope that anyone who is taking this assessment definitely will get an overall view of what the assessment looks like, what are the work that has gone behind this assessment, what resources and materials that are available,
Right.
And besides that, if anyone needs any further information, we'll be happy to help. But for now, we'll wrap up this conversation, and I look forward to catching up with you again in future conversations.
Thank you. Thank you, Jaideep.
Thanks, Shiva.